So nice to be here with you today. I am filling in for Jeff while he's winging his way over to our beloved Baba's abode. And hopefully I can do it with grace and as well as he does. Well, I'll try. Anyway, our first guest today is Irwin Luck. And Irwin, you beat me to it. You were here before even I got on.
Oh.
So, but anyway, I just would like to share that Irwin has had a long and deep association with Baba going way back to the early 60s. And he has devoted his life in service to Baba. He's done so many wonderful things for so many, written books, he's done videos and films, and in the early 70s, he toured a lot, many different countries, and has filmed different people whose life was associated with Baba. And I remember distinctly him and his brother Edward had come to Karachi and were with us in our home in Karachi. And he filmed my father very extensively, and our family too. And those videos are all on YouTube for you to access and enjoy. So without further ado, Irwin, I give it over to you, and you can share your experiences. And I don't know if you'd like people to ask you questions in between or whether they should hold off till you finish, whichever way you'd like to go. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the floor. Well, I've had a lot of really great experiences with Baba. And for 10 years, he was directing and guiding me and the family through letters and through telegrams. He was, this was during his life, of course. And during that time that he was doing this, I also had the occasion to visit him a few times as well, and which I was talking in the beginning a little bit about that. But one of the really great moments that I had with Baba was when he dropped his body, because I was able to go to the Samadhi where he had where he was lying in state, and you could see him. You could see his face, and you could see him in the tomb that they had placed him in. It was a tomb that he had ordered to be built for him long before, and now he was present in there. And I went and I was able to go to be there. And I want to tell you that the experience of the intoxication of the atmosphere around Baba for 4 days, the first 4 days that I was there, was so intoxicating. There was a man, a blind chiropractor, his name was Dr. Harry Kenmore, and he said, "This is intoxicating." And really it was. I mean, he was not just making something up. It was really so exhilarating and intoxicating atmosphere. Whereas in most funerals and most when people die, there's a lot of depression and a loss of the person, and sometimes weeping and wailing and all that else that goes on. But not here. This was something really great, because Baba was always telling us in his life that he was not the body, not to mix him up with that. He says, "Don't mix me up with the body. I'm not that. But I come into the body to be at your level, so that, because that's how you see me. You would not see me otherwise." So he comes like that. And he's been doing it for ages like that. You know, he comes into the world. There's always new souls coming in. Nobody lasts long. The bodies are very perishable that we're in. And, you know, so there's always a new crop of people coming in. They say that there's 8 billion people living now. This was the latest report as to how many are in the world. 8 billion. In 100 years, all 8 billion are dead, or most, or maybe there'll be a few exceptions. But you can imagine there's another 8 billion, if not more, that take their place, that get born. So as many as pass away, there is even more that come in. And this is very important because everybody has to have work out their impressions, their experiences. Very important to have their karma worked out. Now, I want to let you know something. When Baba was around, he gave no importance to whether you were a good guy or a bad guy in your life. You could have been doing the worst things, or you could do the best things. To him, it was all the same. And there was a good reason for that, because he had to wipe out all your impressions, all your karma, all your sanskaras, as he called it, which are mental impressions, in order to liberate you and to give you the God state of consciousness. So it didn't matter whether your impressions were the best or the worst, they all had to go. So that's why anybody and everybody could come to Baba and join him. And because they were coming to advance spiritually by having their impressions wiped out. And this is the job of a perfect master. Advanced souls and saints can't do that. They cannot wipe out every impression that you have. That is not within their realm. And besides, they themselves need to be given help and pushed on by the perfect masters who are now God, who are God realized and beyond the limits of the mind. So they have to go to them too. So this is the same old story for everybody. Did you want to say something? Oh, okay. I thought somebody was wanting to say something. Now, when I heard that Baba had said that even if the worst scoundrel were to stand before me and I had the wish, I could make him realize God in less time than the flesh of a second. How about that? It doesn't take long, does it? In less time than the flesh of a second. Well, that's if he wants to. But in most or every case that I've known, he doesn't want to. What he wants is for you to work out your impressions with his help and guidance, because without the guidance, you don't go very far, because we don't know anything. You see, just like I said in the beginning that I don't know anything. Well, neither does anybody else that I come in contact know anything. But if they know one thing, and that is to stick to the avatar, then they know everything. You see, that's all you need to know in this world. He pointed out that the universe, the world, is like a grinding mill. Only those grains that stick to the central pin are safe and escape the grinding. And he's the central pin, you see. You stick to him, you don't have to be in the grinding, because the whole grinding's purpose is to bring you eventually to the perfect master, or the avatar himself, who's the master of masters. This is the way the system works. And it's an old system. It's been going on for so many ages and ages of time. I'm just learning about it. It's the first time I'm hearing about all this here, and I'm learning about it. Now I'm passing on some of the things that I understood from Baba that he's been telling the whole world anyhow. So if anybody has any questions and they want to ask me something, feel free. If not, I'll think of more things to tell you. Well, there's a great uprising of questions, which I can't hear. So I better tell you a few things of my own. Everybody wants to be with Baba, of his lovers. they love him and they want to be with him. And they wish they could meet him as I had been able to do, and others had been able to do. Do you know that Baba must have met over 1 million people in his life, but
Wow.
not everybody was there to love him and obey him outside of a relatively few people, which were his mandali and others, you know. But Baba had a lot of lovers that lived in distant places. They didn't all live with him. Those that did were resident mandali. And in mandali has a meaning. It means one who obeys, one who loves him and obeys him. And Baba even said that anyone who loves and obeys me is my mandali. So you don't have to feel that you didn't have that chance. You don't have to be with him physically, although it's kind of nice if you can. But just the same, he's everywhere in everything because the mind is everywhere. If you want to contact Baba, it's very easy and it's very simple. You just direct your thoughts to him and the mind is there. You see, he's living in, he's in a mental world. There is no distance or limits in that realm. He hears and can respond to anything that anyone says sincerely. I emphasize the word sincerely. It's better to do it sincerely and then to just make a wish and you say, you know, maybe he'll do something. No, no, no. You got to really want it. And whatever you want, you get. That's the law. Don't ask me. I didn't make the law. But that is the law. That's the law that's been going on for ages and ages. And he keeps saying it every time. If you want, there isn't anything that you could not, that you could want, that you cannot have. But if you want what he has to give, now that's another dimension. Then you have to be ready to surrender. And you have to want to surrender to him so that he can direct you and guide you. How is he going to guide you if you don't surrender? You got to surrender. Otherwise, the teacher can't teach. You got to be willing to be taught and to be directed, because Baba would say, I've not come to teach, but to awaken. You've heard that many times. He probably said that.
Arvin, I think we have a question from Diane.
You have a question? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Irwin. My name's Diane. I don't know how to ask this without sounding weird, but I feel like you've been telling your story for so long that you have an understanding of Baba. I also know a little bit about you. I know that you lost your wife. So when you're dealing with Baba and something terrible is happening, like you're losing someone to a sickness or whatever suffering, I don't have to be specific with you. And you just said you can ask Baba for anything.
Oh, yes, you can.
So how do you surrender
So
to whatever his will
so I
is?
asked him to save my wife because I don't want her to die. like most people who love somebody would not want them to die. They want them to be around. But I always qualify it. I qualify it with this. Baba, I would love for you to keep Janet alive, to be with me, and because she doesn't even feel it's the right time for her to go anyhow. But you leave it, but I leave it to you in your wisdom as to what is really the best thing, because I'm a blind man. I don't see that far. I only see what I see in front of my eyes. If you see otherwise, then do what you think is the best thing. Because as I was pointing out earlier, eventually we're all occupants in our bodies. That's not us. And she has to proceed. Now, she loved Mani and Mera very much. She was very connected with them. And Baba did say, and I was thinking of this later, I said, you know, Baba did say that Mani would become a perfect master. And because of Janet's love for her, for Mani, I could see that she would have to be taken out, because after all, Mani died very brief time before Janet passed away. It was just maybe a few months. And I have to just backtrack a little bit, because Janet also wanted very badly to see Mani before she would pass. Mani had cancer and she knew that she was going to pass. So, but at that time, Janet also had cancer and she was quite sick. She had gotten so sick that it was surprising that she didn't die. But then what happened, because she wanted so badly to go see Mani, and here we are in the States and Mani is in India, all of a sudden, there were certain prayers, and Janet all of a sudden went into remission from a very bad scene. It was like she was practically on a deathbed, and then she goes into remission, and she went into remission, and we were able to go to India to see Mani. And she was with Mani for a period of time. And then when she came back, we thought that, well, now she's in remission, she's going to be fine, but she wasn't. What happened is that everything all of a sudden hit back again, just like before, and then she passed away. But first, Mani passed away. See, this is what happened. It was like unbelievable. She should go into remission. For what reason? You know, we were told a few things that we should do, but you know, nothing was working, and then that all of a sudden works. So-called works. The thing that worked is that Baba gave her an extension so that she could be with Mani, and then she passed away. So later, I thought the reason for all this happening, and I thought that the reason was that due to her connection with Mani, she had to be with him when Mani would incarnate again to be a disciple or to be very close to her, because she was going to get God realization. Baba did say that those mandali, within 200 years, they get it. It could be any time before then. So, you know, that was what I thought. And no one is around that long. You know, I'm not far behind. You think you're going to live forever just because somebody else dies. You're not far behind yourself. And who's going to be weeping and wailing for you then? So yeah, this is the way it works. And I did think that was probably why she had to be pulled out at the time she was, regardless of anyone else's feelings, because there was more for her that had to be accomplished in her connection with Mani, with Janet. And so that happened. See.
Thank you very much.
Rich?
You're welcome.
Irwin, I've watched several of your videos, and I want to say they're charming for sure. And of course, I always learn a lot. And you tell stories with such aplomb that it's like, and then I watched the movies where you and Ed were in India, and I'm going like, how did these guys know? I can't believe it happened, you know? It's pretty amazing. But I have a question for you. It's always been on my mind. Do you have any idea of what happens between incarnations?
Yes, I do. And I'm happy to tell you what I think. And mainly what I think is what Baba explained about it. What happens is that many of the Baba lovers have to take an immediate incarnation after after they died from their present body, in order to continue the expression of Baba's love for the sake of others. Now that's one thing. It does not. This is not an iron rule, of course. This is what happens maybe more generally, but not. But there's always other things. You generally, it depends on your karma. It depends on what your desires are. If your desire is strong to take another birth, or if you have impressions that have to be worked out that are very good ones, say you were, you were a very loving, good person, well, you may have to have some sort of a heaven experience to work out those impressions, but then you have to take an incarnation at some point or the other if you're not done with your desires for the world. But if you are done, and then you see, you go to the next level, you'll go to the first plane or second plane. It depends on what impressions have been worn out. If you wear out your gross impressions, you cannot come back into the gross world. You have no gross impressions to function with. So but you have a subtle body, and you have to immediately to begin to experience the subtle realm, which are the realms of energy. And then there is the same thing for the mental world. When you wear out your subtle impressions, you immediately start to experience the mental world because you have no subtle impressions to keep you there. And it goes on like that until you experience, until you wipe out all impressions, and then you're in the state of the God realized. Now, not everybody who's a gets God realization comes into the world again as a perfect master. It's very rare that even happens. Usually, you remain in that state where you are experiencing your infinite self, the self-realization. So it goes on, it all has to do with impressions. Now, one way of understanding this is that when Baba would say that he is everywhere and everything, when do we experience being everywhere and everything? We do. We have a dream. You have a dream. You're everywhere in it, and you're all the people, you're all the buildings, you're the air, you're the sky, and you're the guy looking in through the telescope to see how far your universe goes. You see, you're everything because you create, preserve, and then eventually when you wake up, you dissolve the whole thing. And then you see it as nothing. So what did Baba tell us? He comes in and he says that we're having a dream, that our consciousness is so sharp and so clear that the dream looks so real. So you can't imagine that it's not a real thing, this here illusion that you're in, the imagination of the mind. It's all within the framework of the mind, where imagination occurs. So he said you're having a dream, which because of your full consciousness, it makes it look all real. And you won't know that it's a dream, and you can't know it until you wake up from it, and he comes as the awakener. So the whole spiritual path boils down to getting woke up. You think you have to meditate yourself, you have to concentrate, you have to fast, you have to do all the things that people do to try and advance spiritually. It has nothing to do with that. It has only to do with waking up. And he is the awakener. And he said, I've not come to teach, even though what he says is the best teaching I ever heard, but he's telling it. He didn't come for that. He came to give God realization, to make you wake, to wake you up as the awakener. He came to wake us up into the reality of what your true self is as being infinite. What we can't even imagine ourselves to be right now, but nevertheless, what is latent in us is what he has come to awaken us to. And there it is. So Baba is really very loving, very great, very wonderful as a human being. Even if you didn't believe in his divinity, he would still be one of the best friends that you could ever get, and very wise and very caring, which is what I saw in Baba when I was there. Baba was not giving me divine experiences. Although I will say that one day when it was time for me to leave, then Baba called me over, he embraced me, and he said, "Distance means nothing to me. Time and space are no barriers for me. I'll be with you wherever you are." And then I felt so much energy. I mean, now that was unusual. I never had anything like that happen, but I felt all this energy, and it made me very restless. I couldn't, you've seen in the movies sometimes where Baba's fingers are moving and how he's doing like that. I was doing the same thing, but to me, it meant nothing. You see, there was no meaning behind it. Whereas with him, he's doing, it's a reaction to whatever what he's doing. But anyhow, the restlessness made me do that, and it lasted till the next day. Then it went away. But that was, you see, that energy was not like electricity. It was like a life force energy. It is the root of all energies. The life force energy is the root of all other kinds of energies, whether it's nuclear or it's electricity. That's just the gross form of energy. But this was like a life force energy. I can only put it that way, whatever that means to you. But that was what happened. It was really very, very, very interesting, very nice. Didn't hurt. If it don't hurt, it's already good.
Diane, go ahead. I think Diane has another question.
I do have another question. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, ask away.
We watched this Baba in World War II little film the other day, and if I got this right, they were saying that shortly after, like 2 years after Baba went silent, he met with, I don't know, a whole bunch of other spiritual leaders, and that they said that this was after World War I, that there had to be more suffering, there had to be another world war. So I know that many of us wrap our brains around if Baba was alive during that time and heard about and knew about all these atrocities, why did he let it happen, except for that was part of the plan? So I'm wondering if A, you want to say anything about that, but then B, it's a pretty kind of, do you know if he said anything about the next calamity? Because when I don't want to talk politics here, so hopefully I'll stay on this side of it, but with as much, with climate change and flooding and fires and earthquakes and volcanoes, lots of things, people dying off, are we going to be here for are we going to still maintain life in 700 years when he comes back?
You're talking about somebody that is eternal. This is like no problem for him. Also, it's very good to understand this. When you're dealing with the leaders of the world and the politics, and this one wants it one way and the other one wants it another way, and there's people following in both directions, you got to remember one thing: who's running the show? And that's what I keep saying. Once you understand that the perfect masters are the ones in control of everyone's mind and all the sanskaras that there is in it. What happened here? Something happened. Okay. Well, anyhow, when you understand that they're not running the show. The spiritual hierarchy, the perfect masters, they are the real ones, and they have only one objective, and it has nothing to do with our politics and national territories and all of that. What it has to do with is advancing the consciousness of humanity so that you can realize your true nature and your true self, and then you don't need nobody because you are everywhere in everything. You're it. So this is what they do. And uh, the world, that's why he calls it illusion, because the world appears to be everything outside of us, when the whole reality is that you have to experience what is within yourself, the real self. And that's why you go to the avatar. He's running the show. This is, he would say, no one is to blame. You've probably read it where he said that no one is to blame. He doesn't blame anybody. They can be the good guys, the bad guys. It's all because you have to get away from the materialism and where it drives you. You see, he was reading something just before that you not to be driven by materialism. You're to use it, but not to be driven by it. So in the same way, the world is not looking for spiritual advancement. The millions and billions of people are not necessarily looking for that. But he has to bring about a feeling for looking at it, because when nothing works, then you start looking for reasons. And then you become more open for the spiritual world. And that is what Baba wants. It's not that he wants to hurt anybody or make anybody suffer, but he also knows that nothing's going to happen to you, because whether you live or die, you're still living all the time. Whether it's better to say whether you're occupying a body or not, you're still going to advance. And that is what his purpose is. Has nothing to do with politics as we know it. But that's what we're faced with. You see, we're faced, what's in front of your nose is what you have to deal with. Somebody punches you in the nose, you're going to have to deal and react to it. But that is ultimately not what you're here for. And Baba is here for what you're here for, to what you're born for, to know the true nature of things. So these wars and all of these other calamities that occur are just, if you're looking at it for its best side, it is to drive you further to know the truth. Otherwise, you can just keep going around in the circle keep getting born into whatever troubles there is when you have no other aspiration. And then people commit suicide because they have no purpose. They don't know why they're even alive. Why am I here? What good am I? I'm having too much pain. I'm having I can't. I have no more money, or I'm lost. I don't feel right, or I have too much and it's not enough, and I don't like it. And even these celebrities, they knock themselves off too, or they take drugs to try and escape from what their worldly life is. So there's all kinds of things that go on, and we can empathize, sympathize, and try to be as helpful as we can. That's very good to do that. But Baba has a bigger purpose in mind for everybody. And one way or another, he's going to achieve it. And I say, remember who's running the show. That will save you a lot of grief. I think I said it.
I think we have Vijay up next.
Hi, Jai Baba Irwin.
Hello, Vijay. Now,
Hi.
Vijay was there too. He was
Uh,
he was a kid standing behind the couch, Baba's couch, with the other kids. When I
yeah,
was there, I saw that.
yeah, it's so nice to see you and revive all those beautiful memories. And the people here at Guruprasad, all monthly, and they were very excited. Who is this boy running away from his home and got 20,000 rupees in 2 days? My father was telling me, this boy, he made 20,000 rupees in 2 days. And we were very excited.
Uh,
And sitting at Baba's feet, I remember, close to his feet,
I had no
looking at
money to
you.
go. So
Huh?
so I wrote to Baba that I wanted to see him. He says, don't worry. He sent me a telegram. Don't worry, circumstances will adjust themselves. And 2 weeks later, I'm there, because for 6 months I was trying to go and nothing would work out. Now he said that, and all of a sudden everything worked out. So that's why I say, if it's for the right purpose, he really does direct it.
My father in 1938, he was 14-year-old and he was at Nagpur. And when he read in the newspaper, when Norina Machbeli was at Nagpur with Baba, he saw the news and he was so attracted at the age of 14. And but I could not understand that how a boy from New York can be drawn. A boy from the Nagpur, Baba can draw, but he's drawing the boy from New York. He becomes so restless. So it's not that universally he's present, my God. So that it still surprises me. And then after Baba dropped his body in 69, I think you were there for 6 months at Vilu Villa, and we were meeting you, yeah. And then after that, all those your cameras, and you've been interviewing everyone all over the world. I think it was a great work. Yeah. You interviewed my father, Professor Hajra at Jagulpur, Mirpur, whatnot.
Listen, one of the things that Baba said to my brother Edward and myself when we visited him, that was in 1961 now, and that Baba just said, such love must be rewarded. He kept saying this to everybody. There was like 200 people in the room. And I was thinking, I don't know about reward. All I know is that I want to know him as he really is. Because when I first went to Baba, I went for him to show me God. I really wanted to see this. I hear so much about God, God, God. You say it's time ready to see something, to see this. And when I was reading about him, and he said he was the highest of the high, he was God in human form, and he was beyond the forms, and and all the things that he was saying about himself as being God realized. I said, that's who I want to see. Somebody that's already there to take me there, not somebody that hasn't got it yet and they're just talking about it. See, if you just talk about it, that's doesn't do anything. But if you with somebody that actually can do the thing, oh, that's a whole nother story. And Baba told us, me and my brother, some really great things about that. So, but that's what I went. I wanted to see for myself. I wanted to see this. He should show it to me. I had heard that he has the ability to do that, and that was what I was searching for. Baba was very pleased with me, and after he dropped his body, I went around. I didn't know what I would do for a while, but then it all came together that I would go and record what the people that had been with Baba, the things that they could tell the firsthand accounts of the things Baba said and did with them, because I knew that everybody would like to hear that, you know, what he personally said and did with you. It would be far better to hear it directly from those people directly. And so I went all over the world to do it. Took a number of years to do that with the film teams that I had, and now it's available. People can see this, you know, and they write to me sometimes and they tell me, you know, how pleased they are that they could see the people that were with him and the things that they had to say as witnesses, where he was guiding them and directing their lives. Wow, that was a big deal. Well, he did the same thing with me, so I'm okay with that too. And he did it with my brother and with the family. My father was very against Baba to begin with, but Baba won him over, you know, just won his heart over. And by the time he died at the age of 94. But before he died, I asked him what he thought about Mayor Baba being God. And he said, now I am one of you. In the beginning, he hated Baba. But then and then over the years, he began to love, respect Baba so much and look for his counsel, look for his letters that come from Baba, and they write back and forth. And then he reached a point where he could actually say, now I am one of you. You know, that's what he said. my father.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, we wish you're in good health and keep telling all those stories for many more years.
Well, as long as Baba wants me
Yeah.
to be alive.
See, this
I was
Avtari
meeting
call.
somebody today.
we-
I said, when
yeah.
I'm 300, because they tell me I look younger than what I am, so I'll only look like 250.
Well, this cycle Baba granted 65 to 125 cycle.
What?
So at least 65 to
Yeah.
till 125 years. In God Speaks, he mentioned it. So I can hope that 125. You see, Hazrat Baba Jan was there for 120 years.
Well,
So
that was her. I don't know. I don't know too. Hardly anybody's going to live that long, including myself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Irwin. Jai
Well,
Baba.
you're most welcome. Always
Yeah.
glad to share Baba's loving understandings, and his and what he wants people to understand and what he wants them to feel. I think that is what happens on these talks.
So hope this year you will make again the India trip.
What?
The trip to India, Mehrabad. Every year you make trip to Mehrabad.
Come on.
Listen, I'm leaving for India tomorrow.
Oh.
Judy and I are going to India tomorrow
Oh,
for a month, and then we come back. You see,
Oh,
there are some
great.
people that say that they like to go, but they don't like to come back. I like to go and come back both, so I got to pay both ways.
So I see you in Hotel Conrad.
In what? In what?
Hotel Conrad. I see
Oh,
you
the
at
Conrad Hilton. Yeah. So where are you? Are you in India now?
no Pune.
You're in Pune. Well, that's
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I'll see you when I get there.
Yeah.
In a few days, probably.
Okay.
All right.
does anyone else have questions for Irwin? Irwin, let me ask you something. So when you were with Baba, the many times that you were with him, can you expand on some of the things that were shared, you know, what questions you asked him, or things that he may have shared with you, told you? Can you expand a little?
You're asking me this reminds me of something.
Okay.
This is when I was in the car with Baba and we were driving along. And I suddenly thought, you know, I should ask Baba something. I started to think, you know, that I'm here together with him. I should ask something. So I I'm thinking this, and then what does Baba do? He asks me. He says, "Do you have a?" He says, "What are you thinking?" That's what he said. So I said, "Baba, I would like to know. I would like to know you as." It was to this effect. I would like to know you as you really are, and because you tell us about how you really are. I want to know how you really are. So Baba answered, and he said, "Do you?" It was something like, "Are you prepared to hear this?" It was along those lines. I'm trying to remember just exactly the way he said it. But anyhow, it was along those lines. And then suddenly some images came into my mind of burning at the stake, where it would be burning at the stake. He wasn't saying you would burn at the stake, but he would. But this is what was entered my mind. So I wasn't answering Baba right away at all, and I was thinking, if what he's saying would mean that I would have to experience that, could I don't know that I could stand it. You see, I couldn't stand that. So so there was this long pause while I'm thinking this. And then Baba just patted me on my knee, like not to think about anything, that he would see to everything. That was what it meant, because Baba was silent, and he didn't speak, but he patted me on my knee, and it was like, that's okay. I'll see to it. I'll see to it. So it was like that. That was one incident that occurred when I thought to ask him something.
Okay.
Another
I think
time.
Ron has a. Mhm. I think Ron has a question.
Okay.
Yeah, Irwin, I recall you're telling several people, I was one among them, something that Baba had told you and Edward when you were there with him. And I want to make sure I got it right. I haven't double checked it in a while. But it is similar to some things that one can read about that, in some of the books too. Not a lot though. And I think everybody here would like to know this if it's true. And that is that Baba had said when the new humanity comes about, that 10% of all the conversation and talking that people do among themselves would be not about God. And 90% of the things that people would talk about would be about God. That's the way I recall it. Does that ring a bell to you?
I remember reading something along those lines. It was slightly different, but it was basically the same thing, that there will come a time when people will only speak about God. That was the way I remember it. But yes, that time hasn't come yet. But it will come. You see, he's talking about the future, what will be. And when that is to happen, we'll see. I don't know that we'll be around. Maybe we'll reincarnate by then. But I don't see that it's going to happen tomorrow. It didn't happen today. But I see more and more people becoming Baba lovers. And as more do, more people will be searching. They won't be, no, actually, I shouldn't say searching. Most people will want to get connected to Baba directly. And this way, it will eventually, as the numbers begin to increase, the world changes, and then people start to live the new humanity that Baba speaks about. He set the guidelines for it. It's all set up in the mental world. There was a time when he was in Italy, and he went into the cave of Saint Francis where he used to meditate. And he told his mandali, his disciples then, to stand back, not to come in. So he went in by himself. And then when he came out, he was very happy and he was very much aglow. And someone asked Baba what happened when he went inside the cave. And Baba said there was a meeting of the masters, and the course of the world for the next 2,000 years has been set. So there you have that, you see. And so what will happen will be, because also he pointed out that he was setting up the golden age, an age that would be a golden age of love and prosperity. He said a lot of the problems and difficulties that the world experiences now would not be there at that time. And science would be at its highest level, art would be at its highest level, spirituality would be at its highest level. And it would probably, everything would be much different than, what we even have anything like that now. But these are the things that he said. And then he said, when he comes the next time, after 700 years or so, then he will have to prepare the world for the dark ages to follow, because these the golden ages and dark ages happen in cycles, and that it's all illusion. He said, and it's all designed to take us out of illusion. That's what these dark ages and golden ages are for, and they do that. So
I think we have Meher who has a question.
Yeah, I want to know, Ivan, how was Baba's reaction when he would meet people?
when he would meet people,
Yeah, how was his reaction?
he loved people. He was very loving and very warm-hearted. He was always very helpful if you had any difficulties or problems or things and you wanted to actually tell him something. He would give you the best advice or counsel. But he would also point out why he is here, to bring you to the higher levels of God, so that you can know God, because God is a state of consciousness latent within yourself. You see, this is what God is. It's not someone else. Baba is your own higher self coming into human form. You see, that's what you have to realize. It's all one.
Okay.
They say God is one. That means he's not two. He's not me and you. He is one. He's the one self behind all the bodies and all the minds of everything, every creature everywhere.
Okay.
It's all imagination. So in the imagination, you can create imagination and you can be everything, you see. So this is a new way of thinking to resolve a lot of the conflict of how people look at everything as being separate from themselves.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have Rich.
Irwin, I want to make one comment. I can't hold it back. I met your brother, of course, in Myrtle Beach, but he moved to Denver for a while and I hung out with him for a little bit. And I always got a big kick out of your brother. I don't know what it was, but I could get who he was, But anyway, I have a question for you also. Again, what do you think of human love, the opportunity to love another, a dog, a human, a wife, a good friend, a father, mother, brother? What do you think of that in terms of Baba's work with humanity?
It's great. I remember my mother said that, isn't love great? She didn't have to be God realized for that. And Baba has been telling everybody that the path to him is love. So you can love anyone, anything, would all, you know, it's all goes to him anyhow. Because even if you love a cow, you love a pet, you love your wife or your sweetheart or your mom. I mean, all of this love, you feel it, and it's in you, and it gets directed to Baba, because Baba is like the sun is to the moon. It shines on the moon. The moon doesn't have any light coming out of it. It's a reflection of the sun's light. So when Baba shines his love on you, you shine it out. It shines out, and everybody feels it, you see, including you. So this is the way. He says, I loved you first before you loved me. And this is the way Baba put it. And that's how it works. So this love is all, it's the one thing that attracts everything, and everyone understands love. The good guys and the bad guys, and the high and the low, and the rich and the poor, everybody understands love. They may not understand anything else, but love it, they understand. And even a pet, a cat and a dog understands love. You can love anything. I have a plant here, and I talk to it and I tell it that, you know, it was withering. So I said, why are you withering? You're not going to find a better place. You know, you're going to go on to what? You don't even know. You stick around here. This is where the avatar's atmosphere is. And the plant just perked up. Boy, I'm telling you, this plant really took off. And it started to make leaves again, and it's just doing great. So it's my pet plant.
That's great. I think we have Scott who has a question.
Hi, yes. Hey, Irwin, how you doing?
Hey, Scott. You know, I talk to him almost every day. And this day is no exception, apparently.
Yes, I'm very lucky. And and I wanted to ask, you brought up about the cycles. I wanted to see if you could explain a little bit more about that, like the golden age, and then when that culminates, and then going into the darker age. And would that be like where the darker ages are more of a time where there are maybe newer souls coming in? Is that why it has to go through that route? Or does that not even play a role?
Well, the way that I look at it is that it depends on the sanskaras or impressions of the people that have to be enlightened. And if you're, let's say, your impressions, all right, let's say you're coming up from the animal kingdom. You're used to, you've been a lion and you want to eat everything. And you want to, and killing doesn't bother you one bit, you know, because this is what you've been doing. And now you come, but you develop into full consciousness. You see, the way that you get, that you can enter the world, the earth plane, is if you have a full consciousness. That is the condition. There is no other condition of whether you're a good guy or bad guy. That has nothing to do with it. It's your consciousness. If you have a full consciousness, then you are entitled to a human form. You see, that's how it works. So whatever the consciousness of the souls is that are coming in with their impressions, the type of impressions that have to be worked out as a human being, that will determine whether there's going to be wars and whether there's going to be a dark age and, you know, a lot of suffering and killing and whatever, because that's what these people have been used to doing in their evolutionary progress. Let's say it's souls coming up through evolution. I can see that, you know, they come up and they have all these darker impressions, you know, that have to be dealt with. So it's called a dark age. And then if there's souls coming in that are more of the loving type and, you know, they're caring and like that, you can have a more of a brighter age, a golden age, as it's called. And they're more illuminated. So Baba says now he's preparing the world for the golden age that is coming up. But next time he'll have to prepare it for the darker ages. So it goes on like that, the golden and dark age. He's for everybody. It don't matter whether you're the worst of the worst or the best of the best. If you have a full consciousness, that's what you need to gain God realization. See, then you're entitled to the human form. And at some point, you're going to get connected to a master who can actually enlighten you.
Yeah, thank you, Irwin. Thanks for explaining.
Rich?
Irwin, you brought something up there that it's a metaphysical point, but what I caught was, let's say that you're a dog, and according to God speaks and what Baba says, you're not aware of the earth plane the way humans are, because humans have infinite consciousness, and you call it in the earth, right? So they have infinite consciousness as a human. But what about the dog? What does the dog see? Does the dog live in the same sphere, this plane of earth as we do? Or do they, I mean, I know it's kind of a
Well,
weird
okay,
question.
there is something that Baba talked about, cats and dogs. He said that the general rule for evolving consciousness is usually through the monkey kingdom. But because they're becoming more extinct, I don't know, the word extinct isn't quite right, but they become less of them. Then they've been incarnating. He said evolution is never frustrated by any form of getting extinct. It just takes another form. The souls enter into a different form. So he said that dogs and cats are now catching human impressions by living with humans, which in the monkey kingdom, they have the kind of bodies that are already giving them the kind of impressions they need so that they can enter into human form because their consciousness is almost full. And what it is, you're going through the animate, the inanimate, and then the animate forms of plant and reptile and bird and animal. You're evolving consciousness. That's how you evolve it, by all these biological forms. And you're passing from one to another, to another, to another, and until you have a full consciousness, or you're ready to enter into the full consciousness of the human. You see, then you're at the top of the food chain. But then you have to work out. Then you got to get rid of all these impressions that you gathered in gaining consciousness, so then you can realize yourself, because you need to have a full consciousness for self-realization. You can't have it with a partial consciousness. I don't know if that answered your question. You can wrap your mind around that. It'll be okay.
Anyone else with a question for Irwin?
Judy is here and she's listening to everything. She listens to all my talks. I don't know how many times she hears the same. And she still loves it, you know. So, all right, that's not bad.
It's like when I was younger and my father would keep talking about Baba, and I would enjoy hearing it over and over again, even if he repeated, certain stories and what. Irwin, can you talk more about your travels and your filming people whose, lives were connected with Baba very deeply?
Well,
anything of interest?
There were really some miraculous things that happened in the course of those travels. One of them, I'll tell you, when I went to Pakistan from India, we had filmed a lot of people, and Minu was to meet us. You're the right person to tell this to.
Yeah, I remember so well.
Yeah, she's the daughter of Minu. Well, anyhow, so we were at the where we had to go through the customs, and the custom agent, when we took, because we had all these films, boxes of films and cameras and, you know, all the things that we were using for filming all the people that would tell their stories. And there were people in Pakistan, Minu being a prize member of it, and, you know, that we wanted to film them to tell also what happened with them and Baba. Well, now we're at the customs place, and the customs agent, it does not want us to go through. He says, he says, you can't take all these cameras. We have restrictions here. There's emergencies. We're not allowing any cameras to come into Pakistan. And we're going to have to just confiscate whatever. If you want to go in, you have to, we have to leave your cameras here. Well, we weren't going to do that. So I did the one thing that I always did whenever there was difficulty with the customs or with the flying or whatever. I talked to Baba. I said, Baba, you know, we're about, this man doesn't want to let us in. And I gave him every excuse I could think of, but nothing would work. So I said, Baba, you're going to have to do something. We need a miracle right now, because he's not going to allow us. So what happens? All of a sudden, this man from behind, coming through a door somewhere, he comes out of this door and he comes stomping over, and he is like Mr. Authority. The way he would speak and the way he carried himself is like, you don't mess with this guy. So he comes over and he says, what's going on here? What's the matter? So the customs agent, he says, these people, they want to go through and they have all their cameras and everything, and we don't allow that. We're not allowing that. So they can't do that. He says, so he turns to me and he says, what are you going to do? So I said, we're going in just to film some people telling some stories that we want to record for our documentary. So he says, well, I don't see anything wrong with that. You can go in. So the customs man now, he goes, what? He's telling him to go in. And so he says, but they're not allowed to do that here. And this man, he turns to him, he says, are you questioning me? So he says, oh, no, you know, I'm not going to question you. So then we walked through, you see, with everything that we had. And in the meantime, Minu is standing there and he's watching this whole thing on the sideline. You know, he could see it. And he comes, so afterwards he says to me, he says, I don't believe this. They never allow anybody, and you just walk through.
That's Baba
Baba, you see, that was Baba.
That was Baba.
We were on a mission from God. You know, we were watching the Blues Brothers in their movie, A Mission from God. Well, it was just a story, but we were on the real mission. And every time there was ever any kind of difficulty, it would just dissolve. You know, if I talked to Baba and I said, we need some help, Baba, the help would come right away. And when we went into Australia, it was the same thing. They were directing, we had a big cart full of all the boxes and films and things that we were carrying in there and cameras. And I'm looking at all the custom agents at the counters. Each one was at their own counter. And they will just standing there, taking everybody's things apart and looking at everything. So I'm thinking, you know, I don't know how we're going to go through here. They don't allow anything either, you know. That's the way a lot of these countries are. So, so I come and I just say, Baba, I think you need to do something here too. So we take our cart, and there was one person that would direct you to which customs agent and which counter you were to go to. So our turn comes and he says, you go straight. So we go straight, and straight means you're going out the doors into the main lobby. You're not even going to any counter at all. So we just literally walked out like that, So they didn't know what they were doing. When Baba would deal with, because this was something that had to be for posterity. What this mission was something very valuable to Baba. To people should know by the people that were with him what happened, and nothing stands in the way. That's why I said you got to remember who's running the show. When you worry about Trump, or you worry about Biden, or you worry about Putin, or you want to worry about somebody else, he's directing the show. That's his direction. These people can't do anything that their mind does not tell them to do. And he's master of minds, you see. So once you understand this, then you're not going to worry so much. You stick to the one that's running the show. And that's what I say. So I don't worry. I think about, oh, I don't like this politician. He's saying this here, he's lying. The other one is saying something else. Now I know this is being handled. And it's been going on like this for ages. This is nothing new. There's been all kinds of leaders. Some of them were good, some were not so good. It goes on like that, for ages. It's the same thing. We're just passing through the same thing. But there is one consciousness behind it. And that is where you focus on. You stick with the avatar. He loves you, stick with that. Love is good. Stick where the love is. That's what I see.
I have a question. It's really good to hear this, because I've been trying to discipline myself to only read headlines. But one of the things that I have such problem with, and this was true of, the history of wars and World War II, is the incredible cruelty that's out there of some of the leaders, of things that are going on. And yes, Baba's got a plan and all of these things. But in my small human mind, it's like, can't you do something? It just,
see, your small human mind is like my small human mind. I also think the same things, Now, if I was God, isn't there another way that we can do this here without all the cruelty and everything else? However, he also doesn't care about death. You have to understand that he's eternal, and so are you. But you don't think of yourself as eternal. You think yourself as perishable, because we're in a body that's perishable, and this is what we identify with. It took me quite a while to get over that one, because I also look in the mirror and I say, well, what is the mirror? I mean, I feel my body, and I'm not all-knowing or anything, but because I'm associated with someone who I know, that I believe is the one that knows everything that's right, that he's more right than I am. He knows.
Did he ever say anything about cruelty?
Yeah, well,
really cruel people. And
Baba doesn't like cruelty any more than anyone else. But you see, it depends on what your sanskaras are and what the hell you did in the past that you don't even know you did, that you have to learn something from by experiencing it. See, the law of life is you will need to experience whatever you do to others. It happens that way. And when that reaction is going to occur is not, goes by our calendar. It will occur. But you learn from it also. The worst tragedies and the worst pain in the Lord, Baba, the one time he even said that the more pain that you experience, the more advanced that your spiritual self will be, because you are going to want to get to what is beyond that. You see, we don't think like that because we may not be experiencing any pain now, but when you do, you're looking for a way out. And that is what happens. You look for a way out, how you're going to get better, how you're going to advance yourself, whatever it is. You don't want to remain in that condition. So, I mean, I'm not going to make excuses for him. I don't make excuses for Baba. I listen to him. And he did say that there's no one more compassionate than Baba. When Norina Machabelli wanted to make make a hospital at one point, she was having feelings to do that. And somewhere along the line, Baba said, do you think that you're more compassionate than I am? Because he has to see to everybody in their own way, whatever is the right thing for you. Everybody has their own mind. So I don't judge him. I mean, sure, as a human being, I don't like to see people suffering and in pain and all of that. But I don't know what the whole story is either. I trust him that he knows this. He knows. He says he knows everything. I have no problem with that. Okay, then do whatever you think is the best for everybody.
We have Paula next.
Thank you.
Oh, I am just looking at did you see the message that he's asking?
Yes,
Jeff,
I wanted to give everybody a turn before I asked Irwin that question. I saw that, yes.
Okay. So Irwin, it says, would you tell the story of Phil Cohen and Baba? That's from Jeff Wolverton.
Yeah.
To you.
Phil Cowens, yeah. Phil Cowens was always getting into trouble. If anybody could get into trouble, he could do it. He knew just how to go about getting into trouble. And I was in the Air Force Reserves on a 2-week duty tour. And he was there also. So it happened that during that time, Baba had asked his lovers to maintain silence for one day, for 24 hours. So I was busy mopping the floors and I was silent. I was on KP at the time. He comes over and he says, are you not talking today? So I nodded yes, just nodded. And then he said, why are you silent? So I wrote on a piece of paper for spiritual reasons. So he says, tomorrow I want to come and I want to know why you're silent. So, okay, fine, come the next day. And he does, he comes the next day. Now I'm not silent. So he says that he's been reading a book about the inner eye, and he wanted to know why I'm silent. So I said, it's because there's a master. His name is Meher Baba, and he has ordered and instructed that those who are following him and with him should be silent for 24 hours. And that's why I was silent. He says, oh, so that's the reason. So then he says, yeah, tell me more about it. So I said, well, I have some literature in my barracks. We can go over there. So we go to the barrack and he lies down on the wooden floor. It's a wooden floor. And he lies down on it and he says, read to me. So I start reading whatever Baba was saying in that in that book. And he falls asleep. So he falls asleep. And all of a sudden he jumps up and he says, I want to contact Meher Baba. I want to contact him. So I said, what are you going to say? He says, I need help. He says, I want to ask him if he will help me. So I said, okay, we can go there. And then he says, oh, I just remembered I can't go there because they told me if I come late one more time, they're going to throw me in the brig. I'll be taken to the jail. One more time. So I said to him, I said, do you realize who you're contacting, that you're wanting to contact? He says, what? I said, this is the avatar. He's the master of all masters, God himself. And you're going to worry about whether you're going to go to the jail or not. This is something that is something amazing in your life. And he also said that no one should contact him now, that is that no one should, he didn't want anyone to visit him or to write to him because he's in seclusion, but in an emergency, you can send a telegram. He says, oh, well, I don't know if I can do that. So I said, now, wait a minute, just think for a second. What is it that you're doing? You think that it has to be bad, that there has to be a bad emergency? There can be good ones too. Like you're connecting yourself with God himself. I mean, you consider that something? So he said, you're right. I'm going there. I don't care what they do to me. So we went. We went and he sent this telegram to Baba. And then he came back, and I also, I would get into trouble too for being late. So I come back to my duty section, and what happens? Nothing happens. I go in, and no one even says a word. And you have to understand that in the military, everyone watches everyone. No one is wanting to do anyone else's job. If you don't show up and do what you're supposed to, they will let you know it, and they would threaten you with something if they can. So I come to my duty section, and nothing. They just don't. Nobody said. The sergeant looks at me, and his attendant, the private. He's a first airman, first class. This guy is worse than the sergeant. He watches everything to report to the sergeant, you see. And he looks at me like nothing, So, well, I think, well, this is a minor miracle. So, okay. But what about Phil? Phil, they're really looking for. They're really looking after him. One slip up and they're ready to nail him. So I see him later. And he tells me, he says, I went back to the duty side waiting for them to jump all over me. And nobody says anything. They just come in. I come in and they look at me and they don't even pay any attention. And nothing happens. So I said, okay, just remember this. Baba, you did the right thing. You made your connection. He is responsible then for you. So he took care of that. But don't do it again on your own unless there's a really good reason for your spiritual enlightenment, because that's the only reason he's going to help you with something like this. And that was what happened. And he became transformed. Baba answered him. There was a letter that came. It wasn't a letter. It was a telegram. A telegram came back. You see, after the 2 weeks, they dismiss everybody from the base to go home. So we're being dismissed. And just then, there's a car that pulls up. That pulls up a distance away. There was a big field between us and where that car was. So it pulls up, and a guy jumps out, and he yells, there's a telegram for you. And he jumps in. First he says, are you Phil Cohen's? And then Phil hears this, he turns, I'm here. So he says, there's a telegram for you. And he jumps into the car and takes off. So now we go to the telegraph office. And sure enough, there is a telegram for him from Baba. And Baba is saying to him along the lines, and I don't remember the exact words, but he said along the lines that that his love for Baba will help him most. Something along those lines. I may not have the exact words, but it was along those lines. So he goes home. And when he goes home, there's a letter waiting for him from Baba. And he tells me, later he tells me, he says, I can't believe it. It had my apartment number on it, and I don't even know my apartment number, he says. And there it was on the letter. And Baba told him this in the letter. And this is really interesting. Baba gave him 10 instructions of things he had to do. 10. And then at the end of the 10 instructions, Baba said, and your failing this means that you now should come and see me at the East-West gathering. That's what he was told. He's giving him 10 instructions and telling him he's going to fail it. So there's no point to even do it, I suppose. And he should now come to see him at the East-West gathering. And of all the people that I did tell about Mayor Baba too, at the during that 2 weeks at the base where we were, he was the only one that actually went. And even his going was a whole story in itself. I don't want to get into too much because your time is limited here.
Well, Irvin, before we end, we have one more person, Dinku, who has a question for you. And she's from Mumbai.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Dinku.
Jai Baba. I'm just curious, did Baba ever have anything to say about the ethics of euthanasia, especially for animals?
About animals? Did Baba say anything about animals?
But euthanasia for, when we put down our pets or other animals.
Maybe I'm not hearing the question completely. What is, I can't see you. There's no.
Sorry, just a sec.
She's asking about pets being put down if they're not in good health. Yeah.
Did he say anything?
Euthanized.
Well, I don't recall that Baba actually specifically spoke about that. What he did say is that they were evolving consciousness and that pets were catching a lot of human impressions by living with humans. And then they would eventually also be able to become a human body, take on a human body when their consciousness was full, but they were very close to that, and they needed the impressions of humans. So living with humans allowed that to happen. He was not talking so much about living and death and all of that, because even if they're put down, they go on into their next form, which may have been a human form. It depends just on what happens. This whole evolution, this advancement in the consciousness of evolution is not something that we can just go by what's in front of our nose and what we see. People and animals and all life forms have a certain time that they can live to work out whatever impressions they have, and then they go on, they move on to the next, onto the next. There's always a next.
Okay, thank you.
This is as much as I know about it. I never heard Baba actually speak about putting them down like that. Although he didn't seem to object to it, it just depended on what the individual circumstance was and what would be best for you.
Okay, thank you.
And we have you. Anne, are you there? She has her hand up, but I don't
Oh,
know.
that was an accident. I have no idea how I did that. So
Okay.
I apologize.
No worries, no worries. Well, it is getting a little late on the East Coast, and we don't want to keep Irwin up too late. He has a trip coming up tomorrow. But I see another question here in the chat from Ananda. Did Baba say when we are done with our gross impressions, that then we spend time in the astral? Will Baba be in form there, or other perfect masters? Will they be there to help us awaken in the astral and mental planes? That's the question.
Well, Baba is on all the planes all the time. When he's even in the body here, he's still on the subtle plane, mental plane. He's beyond the planes. It's us who travel the planes. He's already there to assist everybody. He helps the people that are on the subtle planes. He helps those on the mental planes. You know, like when he was in touch with the Mus, he would contact Mus that were on these planes, and he would just help them. You know, he would give them a push forward. So
Irwin, talking about Mus,
he'll be there for you wherever you are. In other words, put it that way. What?
I was saying, talking about Mus, I remember when you came to Karachi and you were filming, my father took you to meet one of the Mus that he had brought to Baba. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And there was also a Mus that sat at the gate.
Yes.
He said that was a 6-plane Mus.
Yeah.
Would sit at that gate, his gate of the house.
Yeah, and there's a video of that on YouTube as well. So if
Yeah.
anybody's interested to see.
Is that one that I made or somebody
Yes,
made?
yes, no, it was you.
Yeah. See, I have to
we
try
and
and remember.
my little brother and me, we tagged along, and we are in the video as well from centuries ago.
Remember, you were a little kid then.
Oh yes, I was very young. I was only 16 then. That's right. Well, Irwin, it's getting late and we don't want to keep you up too late. I know you have a long journey ahead of you tomorrow. So we thank you ever so much for your time, your wonderful stories, and all your sharing. And we wish you a safe and wonderful journey to Baba.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if anybody has a last quote to share with us, does anybody have a last quote that they would like to share? If not, I will end it. No? All right. Well, I have one for you. Baba says, do whatever needs to be done, but do it as a spiritual being. Do it, in short, as if you were not doing it at all, but as if I or God were doing it through you. Jai Baba.
Yeah, Baba.
We'll have a,
Thank you so much.
have a moment of silence, and then we'll end with three Jai Babas.
Mhm.
Yeah, Baba. GD.
Jai Baba.
Thank you.
Avtar, Meher Baba.
Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher DJ.
Thank you, Nasreen.
Thank you, Irwin.
Thank you,
Thanks so
Irwin.
much, Irwin.
Thank you, Irwin.
Godspeed. Have a good trip.
See you.
Hi, Jeff.
See you in Pune.
That's right.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
I think Jeff is in India. Is it Jeff?
Oh,
Not
Jeff
yet.
is here.
No, I'm in England.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, there he is.
It's
There he
about
is.
four in the morning, something like that.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Hey,
God.
Ananda, yeah. Fantastic. Irwin is still, you know, they just can't get rid of him. He just stays on forever. He's been doing
Thank
this since
goodness.
1960s. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like you, Jeff.
What's that?
He said, kind of like you.
Yeah, this is really nice. I was in England and Baba, the Baba Center here. And people are really into the inner life with Baba. It's wonderful to hear. Yeah. I don't know what I look like, but I staggered down the stairs.
You need to get some
Look great,
sleep.
Jeff.
Hmm?
You need to get some sleep, Jeff.
Yeah,
With the painting in back of you, it looks like you're on a stage set.
I know. It's kind of a strange sort of a
Oh,
alcove
wow.
Mm.
with monkeys all around. Yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Yeah, good. Hey, and
Colin did really well.
what's that?
Colin did really well.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know about really well,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I stumbled
go ahead.
with
You know, the one thing that that Irwin didn't say about Phil Cowan's is that Phil Cowan's got cold feet about going to see Baba because he was really, like Irwin said, one of the worst behaved guys in his group of people. The last person he would ever think had any interest in Baba. And then he got cold feet and everything. And he said, I'm unworthy. You know, I don't deserve to see Baba. And Irwin has this, he knows this really well. Irwin said, no one deserves to see Baba and no one doesn't deserve to see Baba. Deserving to see Baba or being undeserving to see Baba has nothing to do with Baba. These are just human beings, a human point of view. And so he convinced him, you know, you can't deserve to see Baba, or you're not deserving to see Baba, and you're not undeserving to see Baba. And with that line, Phil Cowan consented, and he went over there, and he and Eddie and Phil Cowan was there. They didn't know what Phil was going to do, and they got up on the dais, you know, in line to see Baba, and Phil was in front of them, and Phil prostrated himself right on the dais in front of Baba, and Eddie and Irwin are looking like, what's gotten into this guy? But it changed his entire life. He went from one of the worst characters to one of the best Baba people for the rest of his life. Completely changed his life around.
wow.
A before and after was they should have filmed the before and after of this guy. And he went on to teach God Speaks and come to the center. He came up here and lived in Myrtle Beach. Well, not up here because I'm in England now, but very touching that it's not about being worthy or unworthy or deserving or undeserving. Those are just human categories. You come as you are.
Did you meet Pete Townsend?
No, I didn't. I met a lot of people who did. I used to see him, but yeah. Well,
All right.
I may go back to sleep myself.
Good idea. Good idea.
Thanks,
When do
Jeff.
When do you
Yeah,
go to
Jay
India?
Baba. Thank you, Goer, and
You, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff.
yeah,
Good night. Sweet dreams.
yeah.
Jai Baba.
Baba.
Say
Till next
Baba. Say Baba.
Jay Baba.
Jay Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see you, Jeff.
Sanatan is there too. What's that?
I said, can't wait to meet you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Baba willing in about a week or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, what